Hey, it's Armin with Attract. At Attract Advisors, we offer accounting advisory, tax advisory, as well as financial management services. We're lucky enough to work with very many hardworking, talented entrepreneurs across many different industries. Many of these individuals are world-class in their sphere and have great stories to tell. This is our way of highlighting their accomplishments and their insights, and we hope you enjoy these conversations. Hey, it's Armin with Attract, and today we're talking with Jared Miguez, one of the owners of Arena Title and a big friend of the company. Jared, thanks for coming in and talking to us today.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. I'm usually on your side of the microphone, so I'm excited today to be able to answer some questions.
Yeah, and I get to, for once in my life, talk and then shut up and listen, which is not really my specialty.
Yeah.
So before we get into Arena and everything, all the cool stuff that you guys are doing, how about just a brief intro about yourself and background, where you grew up and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Alexandria, Louisiana. When I turned 18, I moved to Baton Rouge, went to LSU for undergrad, and honestly, every time I come to Baton Rouge, I feel like I'm back at home. Like, I just love Baton Rouge and the area. The only thing, and like everybody says, just the traffic. It's like you take the traffic out of the mix, and you've really got a great place to be. And because of the traffic, I have moved my family to Covington, Louisiana. So after LSU, went to law school in New Orleans, spent my little time in New Orleans. I think everybody needs to spend a couple of years in New Orleans just to experience the culture, because it really is a cool place.
Right.
But it wasn't a place I wanted to raise my family. So we moved up to Covington, and I've been there ever since. As a lawyer, I have practiced real estate law my entire career. I know that there's value, and the real estate industry is directly related to a couple other things. So when we get into the Arena Collective, I can share how we kind of tie all of our areas of practice into what we do, but my primary focus is real estate transactions.
Okay, so from the time you got out of law school, past the bar, up to when Arena was formed, talk about that career progression.
Yeah, it's funny. My wife, when I first graduated from law school, I graduated in May. You take the bar in October. I actually passed the bar on you take the bar in July, you find your results in October, and I didn't take a job until April of the following year, because I was dead set on wanting to get into the title business. I did not want anything to do with going to work for a litigation firm. I didn't want to do insurance defense. I didn't want to do anything like that. I wanted to do real estate. And that primarily because I wanted to learn how to be a real estate investor. And I figured the best way to apply my law degree to being a real estate investor was to practice real estate law. And I ended up getting a job in April at a firm in New Orleans. I was the only employee of that firm, and I did everything except for the legal work, which what that meant was I got to do all of the behind the scenes ins and outs, nuts and bolts of what the title company does. I got to see how all of that worked, and I got to actually do the tasks. And then when I took my second job, I got to actually be a lawyer at that point, but I knew what it meant to be the support staff. I knew how to work the system, and it allowed me to create a process to help grow that second company I worked for out of law school.
Very cool. So how was Arena formed, and what year, and how did it come together?
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, my before I started Arena, I worked at a large firm, and when I first started, it wasn't so large. And my role was to expand that firm from its current footprint. And so when I started, it was a 1.5 office venture, and when I left, we had 14 locations, and we had probably 10x the revenue over that 5-6 year span.
Wow.
And it was a great run. It was a great company. I really enjoyed the people there. I would never trade any of that experience for anything. Like, it just helped me become the attorney that I am. I learned a lot. But ultimately, what I found myself doing is spending a lot of time outside of the St. Tammany Parish market. And I'm a firm believer in doing business with people that you enjoy doing business with. And I really enjoy doing business with people in the St. Tammany, New Orleans, Hammond area. And so I really wanted to come back and focus my attention there. And I had, when I made the decision that I was going to start Arena, I told a couple of people, and a couple of people that I had been in business with decided they wanted to do it too. And I'm very self-aware of my strengths and my weaknesses, which I think is not all business people can see that. And a lot of the advisors, whenever I was starting my firm, didn't understand that concept. And so I was lucky enough to find 3 people that complimented me in every possible way that was beneficial. And so the four of us decided that we were going to do this thing together. And our focus and goal is to serve the people of the St. Tammany Parish community and the surrounding areas. And so the services that we offer are truly to help us further our purpose of helping our clients and our employees succeed. And I know it's a broad purpose, but the collective is set up so that the people that we come in contact with, ideally our ideal clients, we can help them grow in the area in which we're trying to focus.
Right. And so, but it's not just real estate, right?
Yeah.
So talk to me about the other services y'all offer.
So as I kind of got into the title business, I realized that I had a lot of attention, so I started out doing about 150 closings a year, and then I grew it to 250 and then 450, and then 1,000. And it kind of grew from there. And every real estate transaction has at least two people there, a buyer and a seller. A lot of times there's a buyer, seller, and two agents, and then there oftentimes is a lender involved. So there's 5 people that enter my office at any point in time for a real estate transaction. And you do 1,000 closings, that's 5,000 people crossing your doorstep every year. And so I figured, why not offer other things? I didn't have any experience in estate planning and succession work. I didn't have a ton of business experience, but I knew that other lawyers had folks in that area. And John Stevens, one of my partners now, was somebody who was fraternity bros with in college. Again, well aware of my strengths and weaknesses. He complimented me in all the ways that I needed to be complimented.
Right.
And him and I partnered up. He handled a lot of our estate planning work, and then I handled the real estate transactions. And coincidentally, kind of as we've partnered and shifted around, he actually runs the title company now, which is kind of funny. But our expertise in estate planning and succession work help us on the real estate side even more. And then Lauren Navarre, who is one of our other partners, she and I are more similar than others. Like, we have a very similar personality, very driven, task-oriented people, and she has a big business background. And so it made a lot of sense when we decided to partner with Lauren that we would also bring in the business and corporate aspects of our practice. So we do a lot of mergers, acquisitions, franchising, a lot of IP stuff with trademarks, and then we'll do nonprofit work too. And so her sidekick, kind of like my sidekick, was John. Hers was Becky. And so Becky comes in and has a lot of business experience too. And so that kind of rounded out the 3 areas of our practice. So we do real estate, we do successions and estate planning, and we do business consulting. And we rely heavily on personality assessments and experiences, try to keep everybody in their lane. And so those 3 areas made a lot of sense to us and what we were doing.
What about your culture? So talk to me about the culture and how you guys like implement that and how y'all mesh between the 4 of you.
So it's funny what you say that. And I just got done with a business planning session with my little brother who's starting a new business. And I think one of the things business owners miss is establishing their core values and then taking their core values and defining what their core values are. Like, I can have a definition of leadership that's going to be totally separate and apart from your definition of leadership, and integrity and legacy and vocation and teamwork, which are our values. And when the 4 of us considered coming together, we listed our values, we talked about them, made sure that we were aligned in those values, and we made sure that we defined them and all had the same definition for them. And like I said, we complement each other in the best ways from a personality standpoint. We all agree that these are our values and what's important to us. And so from a culture standpoint, we don't hire or even interview anybody until we have them review our core values and understand what they are and send us an email back giving us their definition of the core values and making sure they align. Because I know we're going to talk about the best advice you ever got. This isn't advice, it's something I learned. If you work for a company and your core values are not the same as that company's core values, you can work and exist in that space to an extent. The more you move up the corporate ladder, the more you are involved in the decision-making of the company, the more you have to be in lockstep with that company from a value standpoint. And so if you don't have the same values, you don't define those values the same as the company you're working for, and you move up into a leadership position, your job is going to be to go out and make decisions. And your job is going to be to go out and use your value structure to help that company grow. And if you don't align, you're going to make decisions that might be a good decision, but it's different than what the leadership team or the ownership team would have done based on their values, and it's not going to work out long term.
Right.
And so we have every one of our employees come in, and we let them know what our values are, and they sign what's called a people analyzer, which is from the Traction series, but it's really not that. It's just an operating system and how we bring our employees in. We make them all sign a document agreeing to what our values are and that they're going to live those values at the office and outside of the office every day. So that's a long way of saying, like, we have a value system that we filter everybody, that either our clients and our employees, through, and make sure that they live those values that are ours every single day.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned traction. I know, John and I, thankfully, John found and read Traction before we started Attract, and we did before we really started, we did our 1 year, 3 year, 5 year business plan, but we started from page one, and we spent probably 3/4 of a day coming up with our 5 core values.
Yeah.
And it's what you talk about new hires. That's genius.
It's 100%. You have to.
Right.
You have to. I mean, again, it gives you something to hold them accountable to. I have people come to me all the time like, should I hire this person? You don't necessarily, and again, a lot in the real estate world, like, you'll have one real estate agent want to move to another firm or move to a team. And like, you have to, I can't tell you that answer. You have to know what your values are. You have to know what your accountability chart, your organizational chart looks like, know that they're going to fit into the chart, but also that they're going to live your values. And then if you don't necessarily know whether they are telling the truth, or you don't know enough about them to know whether they actually align from a value standpoint, you have to have them agree to what the values are that you have. And then if they do something contrary to that, you say, I clearly gave you the expectations here. And if you don't live up to these things, then I'm going to have to let you go. And if they do something that infringes on your core values, then you have something that you can lean on and say, look, we talked about this already. It's time to go. It gives you the support that you need in order to actually move your business forward the way that you want. Yeah,
I agree with that. And it makes, unfortunately, sometimes as business owners, you make a hire and sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Sure.
And it kind of makes the decision for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. The outcomes aren't aligned with this. And so it's just not going to be a fit. Yeah.
So culture is great. I mean, culture is a big part of it too.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize that the culture of your business is not just internally, it's your client base too.
Right.
So when we have a client event and I'm bringing in a new client, or if I have different clients come into my office, just because that you might have a good culture within your organization internally, if you have a client event and you bring in all your clients and you don't have a good culture amongst all of your employees, your clients as well, people are going to walk in and be like, why am I doing business with these people? These are the type of people they're hanging out with. And so you filter your clients through that same value system to know whether they are the right person that's going to fit well within your organization from an external standpoint. Are they going to mesh with my employees? If they're not, because they don't meet your value system, then they might not be somebody you want to do business with from a customer standpoint.
Yeah.
So it's huge.
No doubt. And we're here to talk about Arena, not Attract, but it's the same thing with us. And people seek us out, and the people who seek us out are typically the people who are thirsty and hungry for 100%. The financial help. And that's who we like to partner with. And it's so funny because the more client meetings that John had when we started, we would just kind of look at each other and nod, because a lot of times people would be on the other side of the table would be using the same kind of buzzwords. I don't like buzzwords, but the same kind of mantra that we use. And it's funny because we've had a couple that weren't fits, but most of them are just kind of fall right in line with us. And it kind of has a way of working itself out.
Yeah, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't that we had some sort of value alignment and shared experience, right? And goals, because again, you're marketing to your clients. You have, if we didn't have that same mentality or the same mindset, and you put me out on your podcast, again, you're not going to be attracting your ideal client. So like us talking about Attract and Arena, we have very similar paths. We started about the same time. We operate within the same operating system, relatively speaking. We network with a lot of the same people. It's because we align from a value standpoint, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. And it just, the more you put that out there, the more like people you attract. Not to use that word, but I mean, and it's been so great since we started, because I always talk about my Rolodex, but like, it's so great because when you, especially, and to people, if you don't know what we're talking about with the Traction book, it's a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. And it is basically a book that is how to start a business and how to be successful in a business. And it is invaluable. And it's put a lot of people in our sphere just because they're kind of Traction disciples as well.
Yeah.
And it has a way of finding like-minded individuals.
Yeah. And so, not to, Gino might be mad at me for saying this, but like nothing in the book Traction is rocket science. It's nothing is novel. It's all basic tools for businesses that help you grow a business. And it's all like, if you go into a successful business that never has read Traction, they probably have a lot of the same tools that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it is a great book to read to help you understand the basics, like putting things in compartments and saying, I got to do this well.
Right.
I don't necessarily have to follow the meeting agenda exactly.
Right.
But I need to have some sort of meeting agenda. I need to have an accountability chart, an organizational chart. And I need to have a structure, and I need to have single point accountability. Like, all that's not rocket science, but it does do a amazing job of saying, okay, this is a common language that you can talk about across industries and make it consistent within your organization. So everybody's talking the same way, operating the same way. The expectations are clear, and they just have like, you have a book for employees. What the heck is EOS? You have the book for the integrator, visionary, CEO, COO type role, which is Traction. Mm-hmm. You have Rocket Fuel. Traction is the overall concept of the entrepreneur operating system. So it's a great resource especially if you're starting a new business.
Yeah. And it's funny because we will have our quarterly or our annual meetings with our leadership team, and I'll bring it with me. And one time, I bring it, plop it on the table, and one of our people was like, what's that? And I was like, oh, the instruction manual. I brought it with me.
Yeah. And I'll piggyback one more thing. So we had our quarterly meeting for our law firm today. And so the Arena Collective operates, we have 7 businesses under the collective. A lot of people don't realize that. So the Arena Collective is made up of a law firm and a title company. We have a media company, which is filming this podcast, Lettuce Media, and Jonah Fry is our partner on that business.
Right.
We have a home service company called Boss Move Pros. We have an escrow company. We have a real estate holding company, and we actually have a vitamin patch company called Posh Patch that we own. And so we operate within the EOS system across all those businesses to help us stay aligned and be able to work towards a common end goal. And so, the whole collective in and of itself leverages all of those tools as well, which makes a big deal.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest point in the favor of Traction is you could bring it into any organization.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what business. You probably bring it in the military. Just
100%.
anything. Yeah.
And I was going on a tangent, but I'll tell you why I said that. So we just had our law firm quarterly meeting, and as quarterly meeting is you get together once a quarter to reset your 90-day goals for that organization. So the law firm had this quarterly meeting, and you might see companies doing well operating on EOS, but practically figuring out how to implement it is a different story.
Yes.
And so like we're still working through how to create good 90-day goals, which are the rocks. And so, it's a little bit of tension between everybody in the room. It's like, okay, this idea of setting a 90-day goal makes a lot of sense, but setting an intentional goal that is a smart goal that you can actually define when it's completed and how you have the steps to getting there is something that we're still learning how to do 2 years into this process. So what the beauty of the whole system and the beauty of business in general is that it's constantly evolving. You're constantly learning. And as you kind of take steps up in business, you will find more obstacles to accomplish. Like a quote that I remember from a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent is the habits that you have now that got you to where you are not the habits that are going to take you to the next level. So you have to constantly be improving and changing your habits. And so we today had a little bit of tension in our meeting establishing rocks because we're still figuring out the game too. And it's fun if you take a step back and look at it like there's always something to learn or improve at. Oh,
totally. And it helps, and we've talked about this because it helps having, for lack of a better word, a mediator. And there are people out there who are Traction implementing coaches, and they're valuable too. But if you self-implement it, you really have to be mindful of doing it because you got to make sure, it's easy to set rocks and not have them definable, not have them achievable, things like that. So yeah, you definitely have to be very mindful of that when you're self-doing it. And a lot of times, if you've self-implemented Traction, you can jump over to other companies and sit in their meetings and add a lot of value.
Oh, 100%.
And vice versa. And you don't even have to know anything about their business, and you could probably be very helpful.
Yeah, it's just a selfless plug for Arena. Lauren, our COO, she actually will. We don't have it. We don't call it Traction because it's different. But we help businesses do the same thing. Yeah. And so we have a service where it's a 5-step process that can take you 5 days or 5 months to kind of put your business together and help you operate at a higher level, scale. We'll have a lot of business owners, especially now with the way the economy is, come to us and say, I want to sell my business. I want to transition my business to my kid or my children or my grandchildren, whatever it is. they don't actually have a business. Everything's in their head.
Right.
They don't have any operating systems, no SOPs. They don't even have a client list sometimes. And so we're like, well, you don't have any way of valuing. You don't have anything to pass on. And so a lot of our clients now are coming to us and saying, I want to transition this to somebody else. I need you to help me do that. And you would think, okay, a law firm, they're going to help me button up the contracts and everything like that. But that's the legal side of it. A lot of things that we're doing right now are helping people create a business so that they can pass on. And that's really the fun part of the job for me, is whether it's the real estate professional or just any business owner, helping them create something that is an actual business that they can pass on.
Yeah. There is nothing like helping somebody improve their business.
100%.
And I mean, that's basically what we try and do every day. So it's very, very fulfilling for sure. Well, all right. Talk about Arena Collective in the future. Where are we going? What's in the horizon?
Yeah. I mean, so, our goal is to be real estate owners and real estate investors. So that's one bucket. Like, we have a goal of acquiring a certain number of assets over the next 15 years. And then the second goal that we have is that we want to invest in other businesses, whether that's being a partner with them and helping them run their operations. We found a lot of business owners around our area are really good at a job. They hire an employee, they grow a little bit, they hire a second, third, and fourth employee. And now they're like, okay, I'm spending all my time managing people. I'm not doing what my gift and my talents are.
Right.
And then they hit a ceiling.
Yeah.
And so helping them break through that ceiling, whether that's from investing in their business from a capital standpoint, partnering with them, or just giving them the legal consulting and guidance that they need in order to take the next step. That's our other goal. And so right now we have 7 businesses that we own under the collective. We plan on partnering with more people as we kind of find opportunities. But the biggest thing for us is to start having a little bit of capital so we can invest in our own real estate and have our own portfolio that supports our title business. And then as that business grows, then, other businesses that may need to support that real estate business will come under our portfolio as well.
Excellent. All right. So, best and worst career or life advice you've ever got?
Man, I've gotten a lot of really good advice. One of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten, and this concept is something that I love, and I try to live by it. And it's kind of the reason why we started our firm, is to do business with people that you love.
Right.
And if you're doing business with people that you love and for people that you love, then you're just going to have a much more enjoyable time going to work every day. And so, my team I have at Arena, they're great people. Again, we are intentional about them aligning from a value standpoint. And then our clients, we are very intentional about attracting the people that we want to do business with as well. So whether that's being a little bit more casual in the way that we dress, the way that our offices are set up, the events that we have, the business that we do, we're attracting people that we want to do business with. And so, and we're very intentional about marketing within areas that we know our clients are going to exist. And so, I have been in environments where I have gone into markets and did business with people that I don't really relate to as much, which is it's more difficult to do your job if you don't enjoy doing it with people that you're doing it with. So, if I could give anybody advice, is try to do business with people that you actually enjoy doing business with.
Love it.
And the worst advice I ever got?
Yeah.
I think that it wasn't direct advice, but, again, if you don't enjoy doing business with people that you care about and you're doing business with people that you don't enjoy doing business with, you got to get out. I've seen somebody go into work every day and they just genuinely not enjoy doing business with the people that their clients are. And it really drained them. And it almost made them bitter, and to the point where they were trying to pull on strings that helped them avoid having to do business with that type of a person. And so, just don't beat your head against the wall. If you're doing something that you're passionate about and doing business with people that you care about, you're going to be successful. I mean, it's just no doubt about it. And then I'll say this too, that you get advice from people. If you're, just because I'm a lawyer, I'll say this, you'll have some people that are going to law school and they'll get advice to go work for a big law firm while you're in law school,
right,
doing whatever type of law you can get. The big corner office, high rise law firm will allow you to do. I think that is the worst advice you can have. If you want to go to law school, find something you're passionate about. If you're passionate about sports, go work for LSU. If you're passionate about women's rights, go work for a lobbyist. If you're passionate about oil and gas, go work for an oil and gas company. If you like real estate, go get your real estate license, operate as a real estate agent, and then go to law school and figure out how to apply the law to that passion. Don't go to law school and try to figure out what you're passionate about. And don't just go work for a random law firm that's going to have you go to the grocery store and go run to the courthouse. You're not going to learn how to be a lawyer while you're in undergrad or while you're in law school. Go find something you're passionate about, because the law applies to everything. Law school teaches you how to think. You're not going to walk out of law school and have every code article from in Louisiana civil code memorized. You're just going to know how to find the answer, how to solve problems like a lawyer. And so if you can couple that with an industry or a job that you are passionate about or are passionate about supporting, you're going to excel tremendously. A lot of people get convinced to go work at the big law firm, and get paid $150,000 a year out of law school. And you do that for 3 or 4 years, and you find yourself in a rat race and you're miserable. And you're like, hey, I want to go do something that I enjoy. And you go apply to some other firms, smaller firms, or firms that are doing the area of practice you want. And they're like, yeah, we're offering, new employees $80,000 a year. So you're taking a huge step back 4 years into your law career, and you've bought a nice house, you got a nice car, you get married, have a couple kids, and now you can't afford to take that step back.
Right.
And so if you intentionally go to law school to apply the law to what you're passionate about, you're going to be way more successful than going to law school to figure out what you're going to do, or going to law school to try to get that big job at that big firm right out of school. I think that is the worst advice that they can give kids that are going to law school or that are in law school.
Yeah. Another shameless plug. I hate to talk about us, but we were at the LSU accounting group speaking a couple weeks ago, kind of meet the firm type of deal. And I'm sitting up there, and it's basically me and recruiters or partners with the Big Four and some other big accounting companies, and or big accounting firms. And the recruiters are talking about how they have basically these annual programs where they're always recruiting. I mean, how they're recruiting freshmen, and these types of things. They get like 3-year internships and all this. And the Big Four, some of those partners were talking about some of these really big audit engagements and things like that. And then it got to me, and I was like, I just help people run businesses, and I see a lot of different businesses, and that's what I've been doing for almost 20 years now. And I'm not going to say that I'm the greatest or I know everything, because you never know everything. But if you don't want to do audits, or if you don't want to just go into a tax mill, maybe find a firm where, you're just working on a bunch of different businesses, because it's really cool, because you get to see a lot of different things. And I feel like I get to help a lot of different people.
Man, and kids that are in school, they are not kids. I mean, it can be grown ups, so I guess I always call them kids. But people who are in school, they always they get attracted to the idea of working for like a big company like that.
Yeah.
Like go to their website, go meet the people and see what opportunities you have. Because I mean, if you find the right culture and the right fit doing the right thing, you can create whatever you want in life and whatever you want out of a career. And so, you got to kind of take a step back and look at it from the outsider perspective and see, like, go to the career fair first of all, because obviously if you don't go meet Armin at a track, you're not going to know that's an opportunity.
Right. Yeah.
But I think that people nowadays, or the people that are in school now, want to work in an environment like we're creating, like you're creating, like we're creating, because it's not the same dry cookie cutter books on the wall, like I like to say, law firm or accounting firm.
And I don't mean, and of course, I don't mean to denigrate any other firm, and the big accounting shops, they offer a lot of value. They're very good at what they do, but if you're coming out of school, like when I was coming out of school, it was either tax or audit, tax or audit, tax or audit. What are you going to do? You're going to do audit, you're going to do tax. And I did both, and I was like, man, I don't want to do one of these things. And then I, luckily I fell kind of completely backwards into a job with a Shaw Group and learned an industry and all that, and kind of, learned about business basically. But if it had only ever been up to tax or audit for me, it wouldn't have worked out.
Yeah.
Right. And so I was lucky enough to just kind of fall into another opportunity. And I don't mean, some people, and I know people who are retired audit partners, great at what they did, were extremely valuable, but that just wasn't for me.
Yeah. Well, if you know anything about personalities, and we're big on the DISC assessment, but most lawyers, most CPAs are going to come out very compliant, very systematic, and and being a visionary or seeing an opportunity like you would see it to be able to help a business is not necessarily something that just naturally comes to them. So the audit structure is very much like checklist following, and the tax code is what it is.
Right.
So it just their brain ticks that way. So like some people want that. But you get that, 10% of the class that doesn't necessarily want that, or 10% of the CPAs and attorneys in the world that don't want to fit in that box. When you give them an opportunity and they can be themselves, bro, it's incredible what they can create.
Yeah, and I am. I mean, I'm a debit and credit accountant. Like, I mean, that like I'm not going to say that I'm not, because
Yeah.
I'm a debit and credit accountant. But when I was doing audit, I just wasn't close enough to the action, and I didn't feel like. And again, I don't mean to take anything away, because it's critical for business, and I have a lot of respect for the people that are really good at it, for sure. But that just I wasn't in the action, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm learning this business, but I'm not sitting in the room, and I'm not helping these people, come to these conclusions. So yeah, it's I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Where you're creating just a little bit of a different opportunity.
for sure.
And looking out in the crowd when we're talking to them, I can, I know a lot of these kids, like you said, kids, but a lot of these kids, as an old timer, they already have these internships lined up. And again, I was very positive. I wasn't dogging anything, but just our business line is different.
Yeah.
And so I encourage people, and kind of like what she said, I encourage those students. I said, don't, when you're trying to figure out this firm, that firm, same with you guys coming out of law school, it's going to feel like the biggest decision you're ever making in your life.
100%. Yeah.
And it could be, right? Use it to figure out what you like, but more importantly, what you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is it, guys. You're about to go into the real world,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is going to be it. So figure out if you like it, or if you can't do this for another 6 months, then you really don't want to do it for another 6 or 16 or 36 years.
Yeah, no kidding.
That's
That's 100% fact.
So yeah. Well, okay. One more question, since we're an accounting firm, I always got to ask. So what's your philosophy, your take on the numbers in accounting and financial statements, and how do you guys use that to run your business?
Yeah, it's funny. My partners are gonna, if they ever watch this, are gonna laugh, because I'm usually, I guess, saying it like this. I'm doing ask for forgiveness afterwards. Is that right? Ask for forgiveness, not permission, type of deal.
Right.
We are very intentional. Lauren, as our COO and our CFO, she's very intentional about setting expectations and parameters around how we use our money. We have some rules of thumb about how, what our employee income to employee salary ratio is. We're very intentional about making sure that our marketing budget is a certain percentage of our gross revenue. And we have revenue goals every year. And so we're looking at our P&L every single month. We have a bookkeeper and a controller in-house that tracks all of our expenses. And we're making sure very intentionally that we're paying attention to our cash flow every month to make sure that we're going to be able to pay our very expensive payroll as it comes through every quarter.
Right.
And so we are very intentional about tracking that on a monthly basis. Like, we have a financial meeting on the 10th day of every month, or whatever that first, that Tuesday is. That's when we have our leadership meeting to go over our P&L, make sure that we're all on the same page. We're putting money in certain buckets to make sure that we are filling certain opportunities up, making sure our tax accounts. So like, we're very heavy on our accounting. We're paying attention to it as often as we can. I can't say that I'm looking at it every day, but I am looking at it every month.
Yeah.
And when I'm setting my budget, like, we're budgeting for our marketing next year, we know what our income goal is. Our marketing budget's a certain percentage of that. So it's like, what it is. And it's very clear within that marketing budget. We're also pulling on certain strings, like this much for swag. And I see y'all have nice swag like us. So it's just not, it's not cheap. And we have this much set for events. We want to make sure that, again, we're promoting our community. So we have a certain percentage that we want to put in sponsorships.
Right.
So when somebody asks us to sponsor the school, or they want us to sponsor the nonprofits, or they want us to throw an event for those types of people, we have certain buckets for all those different things. So we're very intentional about making sure we're using our money the right way. The industry that we're in, being that it's real estate, you kind of have to, cross your fingers that the real estate market is going to be strong. And unfortunately right now, people are feeling like it's not. We're still hitting our goals this year, which is great for us.
Yeah.
So, we had a good year this year, and being in our second year of business, hitting all the metrics that we set, and we had a stretch goal. We doubled our income goal from last year.
Oh, wow.
We hit it. We're working within our threshold from a marketing budget, which is what I manage every day, which is good. Our employee to income ratio is a little off right now, but that just means to us that when we're not being as efficient as we can be, and we just have a lot of capacity.
Right.
And I think that's a big thing. I mean, I look at it from an opportunity standpoint. I like to know the numbers to see where we're at. And being that our salary ratio is a little bit off means to us that we don't need anybody else. We just need to tweak the system.
Right.
And then, once we pull that back down, we see more opportunity. We might need to add somebody to add more capacity. But I know, based on our financials and our numbers, that we definitely have some room to grow with the organization team that we have.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. So if you don't manage your money that way, you have to. I mean, it's your tax bill is your biggest expense you're going to have every year. Understanding having a team like Attract to be able to give you the advice on how to operate within the system that they have to take the most advantage of things is huge. Yeah. And being aware enough of your numbers on a monthly basis at the least is huge. I mean, how else are you going to know whether what you're doing is actually getting where you want to be? Right. And I'll say something else too. Another not bad advice, but something I've seen other businesses do, especially in real estate, because agents will sit next to the other agent and see that they're making this dollar amount. And they say, okay, well, I should be making that. I can do that too. When the reality is that their business already is performing and operating and creating the life they want. They feel like they're missing out on something because they're not performing as well as or to the level as the other person, or making as much money as the other person. But like when you know your numbers, you can clearly see whether your business is creating the life you want to live. And sometimes me being my personality, always wanted to grow, always wanted to get bigger and do more things. I always see opportunity. But some people are like, okay, this is what I want my business to do for me, right? I want it to make this and be able to create this lifestyle, so I have this much time and this much of a balance, right? That whole balance idea, I don't get it, but have this much of a balance. If you're not tracking your numbers, you never know whether you're on track, whether you're there, whether you need to work harder or double your contacts or double your marketing budget or whatever to get there. Yeah. And so again, know your numbers.
There you go. Well, thank you so much. That was great. I appreciate you coming in today, Jared.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It was great.